Yeah, got to pull the mic in here. Got to get this thing underway. Chris Courtney here on the pre-show. Just waiting for CouchBot to let everybody else know that we are live for the feedback loop. Hope you're doing well where you are. It's pretty easygoing morning. It seems like the week really shifted toward the beginning of the week. Obviously, people are excited about getting back, getting reared up, going, getting their education activities spun back up because this is the traditional back-to-school time. But at the same time, it's also Labor Day weekend here in the United States, and a lot of people trying to move out of the way of that, of Labor Day, and even considering having a long weekend. Having that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then because Labor Day is on Monday, everybody has, instead of having a 3-day weekend, you might have a 4-day weekend. We're going to continue on doing our thing here at New Pragmatic. I always look at holidays as kind of a tricky time. Some people use them to catch up. Other people use them to take a break. So I look at that opportunity. If you are pushing through and you are trying to elevate your game, I look at that as an opportunity where I want to be able to give you some feedback on that. So I will be keeping an eye out for all your work as you're working through the holiday, if you choose to do that. If you choose to take a break because, I don't know, COVID stress or, just general malaise from the year that has been 2020, I am not going to hate on anybody for taking a break. Just know that I try to be, I was explaining this to Chelsea the other day. I try to make this as flexible as I can, while making sure that you're maintaining some progress. And that's ultimately my goal. My goal is that this is never a stress on you as you're trying to grow, because anybody who's trying to improve themselves, that's the person you want to try to be as supportive as possible to. And I don't see it being very supportive when you stress people out. So that's the reason why I take the tact that I do. I try to make the program accessible, try to make the program flexible. And if you are struggling with something, that's the moment to pump the brakes. Put that program on pause, or go take an extra day. And so that you can regather. Simply pushing through sometimes can be the worst thing. Although, each person has their own rhythm that they hit. And for me, pushing through has always been a real benefit, having the ability to push through. But everybody's different, and that's ultimately the biggest thing that I've learned over the years is that, and I learned this from managing different people. I've had 2 or 3 different teams where, the first team I thought, oh well, I'm just gonna be an old ball coach and I'll coach them up, and that approach, I learned very quickly that approach is not what works best. You need to have an individual approach, and this goes for you and your clients too. There's not a one-size-fits-all package for you and your clients. Some clients are going to be different than others. I think that if you maintain a flexible approach, but you are stringent on your principles, the things that you will and will not tolerate, I think that is where you will find success and, I don't know, peace. When you find yourself bending to a client that is being, I don't know, belligerent, rude, offensive, those are things you can't tolerate. When you have a client that is a bit flighty, those are things that can really, They can drag a project down, to be completely honest with you. But when you have those things, you have to know how to design and write boundaries, and you have to establish boundaries and write your contracts to reflect potential flightiness. But that takes time to develop and discover. It takes knowledge of the client, and these are all things that I think you as a designer will develop over time. And some of you won't ever have to get into any of that at all, because you won't be doing freelance work. You'll be working with individual managers at corporations, and guess what? You've basically got to do the same thing with them too. So everybody gets to play along, even if you're not playing in the individual freelance game. But Couchbot's fire. So why don't we get this underway? That was kind of rambly, so I just want to let you know flexibility is helpful in today's world, regardless of whether you're taking Labor Day to grow or snooze. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here, new Pragmatic. It's time for the feedback loop. It's a pre-Labor Day lazy feedback loop. Only a couple things in here, so it's probably going to be a short show today. Katie is back. Luigi's back. I do love seeing like people coming in at common cadence. Rebecca's got questions, but those are off in the DMs. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get this underway. So first place we're going to start here is Katie, and Katie has a new menu page, and this is really pretty interesting, Katie. I want to look at this and think about the new construction, because she's kind of got this new motif started, where it's set up like this with like the salmon colored like box that's over the top of the image, and it's, this is really clean for typography, but she's carried that forward over to this is the original design she had for this, but now it is if I gotta zoom out, and where did it go? It's up here. I just gotta find it. Now she's carried that same motif over to the design for her meal page, and it's interesting, but I don't necessarily know if it is taking full advantage of the shapes that you have here. Now, one thing I will say that I like is when I come in and we look at this with a grid. I gotta turn my grids back on. Look at that. Look at that. On the grid, on the grid, on the grid. Everything here is on the grid, even though she's got these shapes that kind of move in and out. I think that's really cool. But one thing that we know about this shape is that there is this customization field here, all right? And as we come across, here we've hit customize, and it basically expands everything down. And it seems like this has shifted from this view, where the line, where the grid it's lined up with the grid 2 in, to this view where now it's lined up 1 in, and that's kind of an interesting shift, because the ingredients has shifted with it. So there's an inconsistency here between the two, and I'm curious if this in fact is where we should be looking at a different organization here, like, because now it's popped back where ingredients are here, and now this information doesn't really have a proper home. Okay, so I'm gonna sketch out just above this meal page. I'm gonna make a copy of it, and let's just sketch out in a copy of the page up here. So you've got this steak bowl, right? my curiosity is whether this first should be expanded down. I know you've got some options here with regard to other colors. So the first thought I had was, okay, well, what if we get add to cart and the stepper here? What if we get those to align and we get kind of a proper shape on them? Now, this shape is a little odd right now, but that's okay. And in some ways, I could see this actually coming up to match up with the bottom. Like now, so now it's just aligned. And so you've got all this information, and if you hit customize, you know, you've got your ingredients here. I do wonder if the ingredients should just be, you know, 5 across. Like instead of, you know, you've got 4 and 4, couldn't it be just 10 items? And if you happen to have, if you have 5, that's great. They just go all the way across. If you have 6, they would just do that. Like you would just have one that would hang out. If you have 8, they hang out like that. I do think the spacing probably like more like that. Although you want to, you know, we've got these variable lengths here that we need to be paying close attention to. So some of these are going to be 2 lines, and that's a perfect reason to leave it at the depth that it is, because the sirloin steak. Yeah, sorry, sirloin. Also, like, is it centered? Is it centered like that? Is it aligned left? We need to figure that out. But these, you know, these are going to be 2 lines, no question. Figure out which direction those are supposed to go. But here, like when you hit that customize, the question I have is related to what happens next over here. All right, because what I see occurring based on the structure of your design is you've got this box that appears. All right, and this box for customization says that, okay, I'm going to hit customize, and then something's going to happen. It appears that like all of this stuff is going to drop, right? And that means that, you know, do we really need this? Because you did make this information go away. So if we group that and we make it go away, like, okay, that's basically the design you have right now. But why wouldn't you just, you know, append it and say, oh, well, I've hit customize, and you can come in and, you know, do your fill and maybe, you know, figure out what does this action look like, you know. And if we say normal and we change this color to, I'm not sure exactly why that button isn't filling. Okay, there it goes. So let's say that you've selected this, and this makes the, triggers it. All right. There's nothing about this that seems like it should, and I'm going to come in here and I want to reset the instance. I'm going to detach it real fast so we can. Oh. How are the constraints set up here? Oh, all the constraints are still set to scale. That's what's going on. Okay, so now I could go into your components and change them, but I'm just sandboxing here, so I don't want to necessarily change your components from what they are. So I'm just adjusting this. Yeah, we'll let apply scale. But now, when we drag this apart across, only apply should move. But the idea here is that you're getting this box that's expanding down, and that's fine. I really would like it if, like, and actually this box really feels like it should come across as well. But not this piece. And it's centered. All right. But this feels like it should have some sort of, like, I don't know. Let's look at the fill. Yeah, okay, so it's got that secondary color to it. Does it? Yeah, I don't know. Let's just cancel that. Overall, you've got the drop down. It's customized. You can come through, hit apply, and then, the question is, do you keep this? It seems like that does go away, logically, and then you could bring your ingredients and prep back into the mix, because again, it's just pushed this down. But this design, it allows this column to push, and it basically says when you're designing this, like, this section this is basically a 2-column design. And it's layered a bit, so like this image goes over a bit, but then you've got 2 sections down below. Like, you've got this rail, and it's like you've got like a space in between, which is interesting because it's like you've taken a 12-column grid and you've basically given yourself space to one side and then an additional column in the middle. It's an interesting design. It's not your everyday run of the mill, but this column is really overlaid like this, okay, which is again an interesting design, but it only really works if you find a way to get these things to work together, and that's what I'm trying to suggest that you do here. From there, the next question is, what happens when you have these added elements? And I'll move these out of the way. Those added elements need a home, okay? And that's the other side of this coin that I think is kind of broken, is that right now, those added elements, if we really pull them up, they don't have a home. So we need this information to basically find a way into here. And is it, it seems like there's like a label. It says maybe customizations, and then you could always still have the customized label here, or you could keep customization where this is, and you could add a label. It says customizations. Another way to do this might be to also, we could just attach this to the bottom. So now this stuff is all flowing in the same line. One of the ways that you may see this, if we do this, is double portion protein. Sorry. And it's basically like a let's add auto layout. so that we get that. Let's give this a background of, let's give it that, yeah, we'll give it white because it'll show up like a thing. If you wanted to make this like have curved edges to it, you could pretty easily. So, you know, this could be, and obviously that's not the font that you were using, but, you know, double portion protein, remove peppers. And instead of saying it like this, actually I'll leave that add because I'm going to delete these. Customizations. Oh, where'd it go? That's weird. It's like I just somehow magically zoomed away from it. Yeah, okay, so you have customizations here. And essentially something like this where, you know, you're listing what's here, and you still have the options to, you can see what you've done, and you can say customize further, I guess. You know, and again, this is where auto layout comes in, so you don't ever have to do this weird little draggy thing. And it shouldn't be that color here. Yeah, so essentially, like, that would be a suggestion for a way to clean this up. But my big thing is, A, finding some logical home for this. B, solving for this changing grid structure. And that's why I would suggest hitting customize, expanding the box down, having it exist in the same box, and then having this all come back together, and giving add to cart like its own little section, if you will, and then obviously bringing this all back up once that is complete. But that's the suggestions I would make for that specific design that you have, rather than because we've got to solve for the column structure problem that we got right now. We've got to solve for this data that's kind of just hanging out, and it seems like a simplification of the design is necessary. Okay, so I'll leave that with you. See what you do with it. Obviously, the colors and the fonts and whatnot that I was working with, I was just roughing that out. But I wanted you to see the thought process behind how I would clean that dynamic up. Is it perfect? Nah, none of this stuff is perfect. It's all just opinion. So see what you can find there. But I definitely think that you need to streamline the column structure here so it doesn't jump like that, and then find a good home for that information once the customizations are made. Okay, let's go here and take a look at Luigi, because Luigi's killing it. It looks like we're on the pickup screen, and okay, so you've selected Flatbush Avenue. That's confirmed store. Yeah. So Luigi, you picked up exactly on what I was saying. The pickup location then shows up as part of the order details, and then we're continuing to check out. This again is picking up. It's picking up exactly the setup that you had before. You know, for checkout for delivery. Like, when do you want it? Same thing here. And then you get down here to pickup time is added. Now you're doing credit card. I do love the way that this is starting to come together. And then thank you for your order. Okay. Your order has been placed, and you're getting started on it. An order confirmation has been sent to you at Sammy Watkins, Clemson, right? Yeah, or Houston. Anyway, I think he was a Clemson guy, which is interesting because Eve lives in Clemson, South Carolina. Actually, I think she went to Clemson, so maybe the two of you should talk about Sammy Watkins. Yeah, so I think that's great. I think that flows exactly what we talked about. We talked about the adding of the map so that, because again, you're going to them, you want to make sure that they understand where they're going. Also, 1, 2, 3 Flatbush. Oh no, it's just down from the Barclays Center. There's like a Target like right here or something. Anyway, yeah, I think this is pretty strong, and again, the other part was like switching that confirmation to mention where they can find a copy of this receipt, because again, once you close the window, how do you get back to it really easily? For a lot of people, it is, I'm not going to try to go back through the interface. I want to just go find my email and my confirmation. I had to deal with this yesterday, and actually I was dealing with it on my watch, where I needed to pull up the confirmation, and I had no idea that in the mail app on the watch, you can double click and get a preview of the mail, and you have to zoom. You have to zoom in, and that's kind of silly. But luckily, it worked fine. But people, I can confirm, people go to that email a lot. All right. And I just want to make sure that I was answering. Where did? I don't know where Firefox went to. Luigi. Food pickup flow made the map. Yep. Yeah, that's what we just looked at. So, Katie, Luigi, thank you. Now I got to find back to OBS. Back to there. Hey! That was fun. So, a lot of time spent in Figma this morning with Katie and Luigi. Both are at different phases of the Fresh Market project. I hope that you found this beneficial. It certainly is always fun for me. And as I was stating earlier, it's Labor Day weekend. A lot of people are going to be taking time off. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. It's 2020. Like, give everybody space to do what they need to do. If you're pushing through, fantastic. If you're not, that's okay too. You do you, and I'll be over here to support you regardless of which direction you go. And without further ado, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm Chris Courtney. This has been Feedback Loop, and I will see all of you next week. Take care.